Hello, everybody. We hope you've had a good week, and we want to welcome you to episode 8 of The Bookshelf. I'm your host, Woody, and with me is.
Hello, gamer.
And.
DreamerGirl.
So, yay! Dreamer's back after her little escapade away last week. We have a full complement this week.
Mm-hmm.
So today's episode, as you can tell by the title, is will be taking a look at that very popular JRPG franchise, the Persona series.
Yay!
So a little bit of background here is the Persona series was brought to life in the mid 90s, I believe it was, like 95, 96 on the PlayStation. It was spun off from the ever popular Shin Megami Tensei series, itself having a huge library of games and spin-offs in its own right, including Jack Brothers, maybe sometime down the line we'll have a bit of a closer look at the Shin Megami Tensei series and its further spin-offs. But this week we'll be taking a look at the ever popular Persona series. Now, some of you out there may have actually been, starting the Persona series, back in the PlayStation era. Ever since Persona and Persona 2 were released on that. Maybe you played the remakes in 2010 for the PSP. Or maybe, like many people, Persona 3, 4, and 5 were your starts simply because of, their almost universal and universal release date alongside the Japanese release.
Mm-hmm. And ironically, Atlas used to only want to exclusively release to PlayStation.
Yep.
They only just recently changed that within like the last few years. Is that correct?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I think it's down to the fact that the Nintendo Switch and the the Xbox have surged in popularity in Japan in recent years.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, ironically, it used to only Atlas used to only release on Sony, which is kind of interesting that they went from that to all of a sudden being like, okay, you can have our stuff now.
And if I remember rightly, Dreamer wasn't one of your mentors from back in our mentors episode from the Persona series.
That is correct. That is very correct.
Oh yeah.
And they were from Persona 5, I believe.
Sojiro.
Yeah.
And actually, it's kind of funny, but like I was thinking about this, and I've told you guys, but when I purchased Persona 5 for the PlayStation 4 back in good old 2017, that was my last big girl purchase before I got married.
Well, there we go.
Book edition, and I remember my mother, saying, "Why would you do that? You're getting married." And I'd be like, "Because I want it."
So to start off with, Dreamer, what are some of your earliest Persona memories?
I started playing it in college. I was probably back in like 2013. I discovered it through a guy I was seeing. Shock. I dated before I, met Mr. Dreamer. Wow. And he introduced me to Persona 3 because I still had a PlayStation 2 at the time. I know.
Mhm.
Again, shock. I had a PlayStation 2 that worked back in 2013. It was my brother's. I'd stolen it.
No, no, you hadn't stolen it. Let's be real, Dreamer. You borrowed it and just, forgot to return it, or just
More
borrowed it for an ex.
it's more like I borrowed it without asking.
Oh, so you basically Homer Simpson, your brother's PS2, like Ned Flanders.
Yeah.
You,
And then I
had
remember,
to insert an obligatory Simpsons joke in there.
and then I remember I was playing Persona 3, and I just remember that, the main character was like the super chill, like blue haired character, and you're just like, huh, huh. And then I got Persona 4 not too long after that. And the character, like your main character that you play as, I still liked, but the supporting characters were more annoying than the Persona 3 characters. I just remember wanting the one who was like who owned Junis. That was what, I forget who he said that was. But I just remember never using him after we got so many characters and you had to pick. I would never pick him.
And
So
I remember. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, so you just used him up to this certain point in the game, and then you just cast him aside and forgot all about it.
Unless I had no choice.
Kick him to the curb because he's as useless as every time he falls off a bike.
Basically, yeah, he was the most obnoxious, and I would do the you had to do social links where you have to make friends with all your teammates and with rando people, and things happen if you do your social links, and I would get his done as quick as I could because he just would annoy the bejesus out of me. And I just be like, I don't like you. You are annoying. Can you please go and lay in a ditch and never be found again?
And I do have to say one thing. When I first played Persona 4 years ago, first thing on my mind, Teddy scared the crap out of me.
Oh, I know. Teddy did. Honestly, Teddy was probably
The weirdest of the mascot characters.
Out of all of Persona, and I've played 3, 4, and 5, and I'm almost done with Golden. So we could count that I've played Golden. And I'm literally just sitting there going, Teddy was creepy. Teddy was legitimately creepy. I'm looking up the name of the character that we don't like, Rob, because I know you don't like him either. I don't like him so much I forget his name.
So you just the one you kicked to the curb because he keeps falling off his bicycle.
Actually, he literally did fall off his bicycle.
The first scene in the game, he comes in, he falls off the bike and somehow hurts him right in the nuts.
If I remember correctly, he fell into Chie. If I remember correctly. Is it Chie or the other girl?
I think Chie, yeah.
To be fair, I have no idea who these characters are because, I'm aware of the Persona franchise. I'm aware of a couple of characters. I mean, I think one of the most famous ones is obviously Joker, but obviously,
You're basically along for the ride today.
Okay, yeah, so I looked it up. So Rob, we did not like the character Yosuke. That was the one who owned, his dad owned Junis, and the little girl would go, every day is Junis. And then we didn't like Junpei, and if I remember correctly, Junpei is in.
So tell me again why Junpei is not exactly a liked character.
Because he's annoying.
Ah,
3.
Yeah,
Persona 3.
Yeah, it was in Persona 3. And I'm trying to remember the character that we didn't like in Persona 5 was
Ryuji.
yeah, Ryuji. It's basically like you start off all the characters that you start off with, we like couldn't stand the friend that was supposed to be the friend of our character. We're literally just
The
like
first friend.
Yes, the first friend. We're like, oh, shut up, go drop dead.
now the only thing I also know about Persona 5 is apparently there's a secret game over ending for Persona 5 where there's a certain point in the game, I think it's towards the end, where if you whatever girls you end up having a relationship with turn up to this date, and if you have somehow ended up dating all of them, they'll just turn up and beat your character to death.
See, I've never done that. I've always just picked one.
Neither have I.
Now that makes me wonder if that really happens. Maybe we should try that sometime, Rob.
If I remember right, it gets very awkward.
It's the fact you have to, build up all your relationships with these female characters to the point where you end up dating them.
Yes, and see, that's a thing in all of the Persona games because you play as a male. The protagonist is male, and so I think if I remember correctly, you can date all of the characters in Persona 3, and there's like no repercussions. There's no nothing. Like nobody cares. You can be, a polygamist and have, all these.
You can have a literal harem of all the female protagonists.
Yes, if I remember correctly, you don't have any repercussions in Persona 3 or 4 if you date all the girls.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And the only one that then decided, oh, hey, we're going to spice it up a little. And, if you date and try to date all the girls like you have before, you cannot be a player. You can only pick one. And then they're all going to get mad at you.
Yeah, it's literally like a scene right out of an anime series, where all these girls turn up with gifts for your character, then they all just look at each other, turn on you, and attack you, and you're left on the floor unconscious, and then it's game over.
It doesn't surprise me that happens, to be completely honest.
To be fair, I think it was done more as a joke, tongue-in-cheek Easter egg rather than it having a serious ending to the game. So we've asked you the question. So, Gamer, what are some of your earliest memories with the Persona franchise?
Oh, when I first played 3, and they showed how you would summon your persona by shooting yourself in the head.
Yes.
And each character had their own way of doing it.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Oh, I remember that. That part I remember going, oh my God. Because I remember I was in my 20s when I first, like I said, it was in my 20s when I found this game. Because the guy I was dating was this has been his obsession. And he literally, I'm watching it, and our character kind of does it the normal I don't know if it's the normal way, but I remember going
side of the head.
Yes, and I remember going, what the is this? You want me to watch what? You want me to play what? And then one of them literally points her head down, and she's
the female lead character, the female character.
Her name, I remember it was oh gosh, I'm trying to remember. Yukari. Yukari is the one who's
basically turns the barrel straight to your forehead.
And she closes her eyes, it looks like, and does her thing. And then one of them literally just almost robotically, I think that was Mitsuru the one who was like our leader. And she literally just like almost, and same with Akihiko, they both like robotically do it.
Oh, before we move on, I just remembered the original Persona 3, you could play as a female.
I guess
Yeah,
you
okay.
could.
Or Persona 3 FES, or
I think it was. I think so. But yeah, I remember that. What about when in Persona 4? What was your thoughts when you first saw that one?
when it basically felt like I was on acid. With all the weird stuff and talking to your own shadows, like, what drugs am I on, and can I get more?
Oh, and they're wearing the glasses, because remember in Persona 4 they wore the
It was
glasses.
the glasses.
And that's how they could see their persona, and that's how they like protected themselves from the TV world. And then Teddy was a creepy, so creepy. It was like nightmare inducing.
Yeah. So for someone who's never really played the Persona series, I assume here, and I might be incorrect, but feel free to. I assume all of the games are standalone titles.
Yes.
And none of the stories are interconnected in any way.
Basically.
Yeah, not that I can remember that they interconnect.
No, they don't.
Because I mean, like, and they're all set in like different time periods too. Like, because I remember correctly, Persona 5 is set during what, like 2016, 2017.
So I'm guessing that aside from Easter egg cameos, that previous characters from the franchise just, they don't appear other than, like I said, a little Easter egg cameo, that you can talk to in a bar or something like that.
No, I've never even seen that.
Believe it or not, the only time the characters from each Persona series would talk to each other, I think, is during either those Persona Q games or those dancing Persona games.
Yeah, that's the only one.
Right, gotcha. Because I'm, taking from like other JRPGs, like Final Fantasy, Dragon Quest, etc. Characters from previous entries, do sometimes appear either as a nod to the previous game, because it's a continuous storyline, or they may appear in a scenario as a cameo Easter egg.
The only instance that would be true for the games is the monsters you fight.
Yeah, right. That's true. Because they all like, and then your personas, like in each game, your personas are pretty much relatively the same.
Okay, so they do. So
other than your starter persona, I think your starter persona is different in each one.
Okay.
The persona for each character, no matter which game it is, it's unique to them and them alone.
Gotcha.
And the main character of each game, the character you mainly play as, has the ability to use multiple personas at once.
And that's unusual because each of these people can only control one persona at a time until their persona evolves, kind of like you think like a Pokemon evolves.
Yeah.
And then, they control that one, and then that's it. They only control the one. Where like you can control, I think the most is like what, like 8 or something.
Because it's funny you mention Pokemon there, Dreamer, because I remember, because if you remember in Pokemon like Red, Blue, Yellow, you play as the character of Red or Ash, and he appears as a boss in one of the other games.
But yeah, if I remember correctly, Rob, it's like we can control a certain amount, and then you have to do a fusion. And when you fuse each persona, it becomes something different.
And, I also kind of feel like making Doofenshmirtz meme there. It's like, you mean controlling 8 personas at once is a rare... rare instance.
Yes.
Funny that it's happened 6 times already.
I think I don't know about the other ones, but at least in Persona 5, you could do almost 10, maybe 12.
Maybe, yeah, that's right.
Okay.
I think that the other ones are roughly about the same, maybe like give or take.
Depends.
Yeah.
Like it's been so long since I played Persona 3 or 4. I probably haven't played 4 in over 10 years because I need to get my brother's PlayStation back. I need to go and walk off with it for an extended amount of time.
Yeah.
But I mean, at the end of the day, I would say
About 10 to 12, roughly.
yeah, it's roughly that. And then each starter character that you start with has a different backstory. Like if I remember correctly, Persona 3, you're orphaned.
Mhm.
And they're from like is it a smaller? Like they kind of like alternate. Like they go between a smaller town to like bigger town to like smaller town.
Yeah. The backstory changes each main character.
It's like I feel like they kind of alternate. Like the one game you have it in a smaller town, and then that's where they're from like the big city. I think
Mhm.
if I remember correctly, you're from a smaller town in Persona 3, and then you go to like a bigger city. And then Persona 4, it's you're from a big city and you go to a smaller town.
Mm-hmm.
And then Persona 5 is like you're from a smaller town and you go to a bigger city.
Mm-hmm.
If I remember correctly, because they all kind of have this little, it's like a pattern. But like Lone Gamer said, each one has their own backstory. They're each unique to each game, and your backstory actually plays a really big role
Into the game
into the
itself.
whole story. And
So it's not really just something that's brought up in conversations every now and then, and is largely forgotten about. It's actually plot.
Yep.
it is
It's
a
actually
huge plot. Like in Persona 5, you are on probation from assaulting somebody, trying to save a woman. And that's why you're living with Sojiro and you're living above his coffee shop. And he basically like starts off the game like thinking you're this like hardened criminal and piece of trash. And he basically like says, "Oh, you put a toe out of line, you're out. I won't hesitate to throw you out." And then as he realizes, "Oh, your character is actually not a piece of trash."
Mm-hmm.
Then he realizes, "Oh, this person, he studies, he's smart, he's charming," because you have to do all these different things to bring up your intelligence, your charm, your proficiency, or what's the other one? Because they're all pretty much the same in every game.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
It's like charm, proficiency, academics, and oh gosh.
So I could be wrong again, but it sounds like from the sounds of it that rather than the traditional RPG method of whacking enemies and gaining experience, that whole kind of system is different in Persona.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm. Like
Because
you
you're
have to
also kind of
obviously whack the
integrating in the
enemy.
world.
I mean, you literally do have to grind. Like it is a grinding game, but that's not like the main premise of the game. It's not like Final Fantasy where you literally, from my understanding and remembrance, it's different. It's a different.
Yeah, Final Fantasy. It's the idea is you level up your characters by grinding experience by whacking enemies until they die. Grinding in certain areas, grinding against certain enemies and bosses until you level up your character enough that you're strong enough, have the equipment, the spells, the items to pass a more difficult area.
Now you do have to do that in Persona, but you also, on top of that, have to do all of your other stuff, like your social links, your leveling up, all the. And I can't remember. There's like one more, and it's gonna drive me absolutely bonkers.
Mhm.
Going to school.
Yeah, that's you have to go to school, but like you have to do your academics, your charm, your proficiency.
It
And there's
changes each game has its own stat, but you have the general idea.
like they all have, I know they all have academics is like their main one, because you have to do so well in Persona 3 for Mitsuru to like give you a reward.
So
Mhm.
so it's interesting that those mechanics actually have a value, and you have to maintain those stats regularly by attending classes, passing tests,
You have to answer
doing that,
questions correctly.
or like you're saying in Persona 5, brewing coffee.
Yeah, you had to brew coffee because that did something that like gave you, I think it was, oh gosh, it gave you either
Uh,
charm or it gave you proficiency.
It's like that's good. There's kindness.
Oh yeah, it's kindness.
You're welcome.
So you have to, do good deeds. You have to help people. You have to, not only make friends with people, because if you think about it, in some RPGs, talking to people is literally just a line of dialogue, and then
Mm-hmm.
that's it only changes
And
per,
see, in Persona 3, you have to go
but
into Tartarus and you have to literally grind. And
But the
then,
point I was, but the point I was making, Dreamer, sorry, is the
mhm,
fact that if you're making these social links, you're making friends and forming relationships with these other characters, and there's positive and negative aspects for either maintaining them or neglecting them.
yes. Now, if you neglect them, nothing like really bad happens. I mean, obviously, you just don't progress with that person. And then, I mean, nothing, I don't think that there's like anything negative happens if you
No,
don't, like,
no.
if I
But you
remember
don't.
correctly.
But you don't get to say recruit them to your party if you have a negative relationship with them, or they won't give you a certain item to
It won't progress the storyline, or at least it might not progress it into the ending that you want if you don't do certain things. Because there's
Hmm.
multiple endings with Persona. Like you'll have like your normal
so
ending,
so there
your
are
special ending.
repercussions. So yeah, there are repercussions per se, to neglecting relationships.
Mm-hmm.
To a
Certain
degree.
ones, yeah. But I mean, it's only like it and I think that's what makes the replayability so awesome with Persona is that you can make certain decisions in your very first gameplay because you literally have no clue what you're doing and you're literally like, I don't want to say stupid, but you just are like a noob and you make so many different decisions your very first playthrough of it than you
Hmm.
would like your second, third, fourth, fifth, 10th playthrough, because by like your 10th playthrough you can pretty much beat each area in like little to nothing, and you literally don't even bat an eyelash, where your very first playthrough you're like,
Where am I going? What do I
what am
do?
I doing? And see, I've only played Persona 5. I'm on technically my second playthrough, but my first one with Golden. So technically, I've only beaten it once. And it was the most, I think I spent over 300 hours on it. Because I hated that airlock thing in Persona 5. That was the worst level, other than when you're on the cruise ship and you're trying to like turn into a mouse. You're trying to figure what in the hell you're supposed to go, and you're trying. I hate those two. Like the last, like, because see, they call them different things in each Persona. because Persona 5 and Golden, and not Golden, Royal, they're called palaces. And then I think it's just called the TV world in Persona 4. It might be called, it might have an official name, but I always just called it the TV world because you literally just went into the TV. And then Persona 3 is called Tartarus.
Mm-hmm.
And then Tartarus was such a pain in the ass. Pardon my French. It literally just was like, you literally were going up to like the very top. And so when you were grinding, you'd start at like the bottom level of where you just opened, and then you'd go up.
Mm-hmm.
And you literally just would grind in Tartarus. And Tartarus eventually would like, your vision would blur. Because you would just be so focused on getting to this top level, but also leveling up to a point where you could either decimate the next enemy, or like, so you didn't die, or you would, you know, basically exhaust your characters, because that was a thing. You can exhaust your characters if you don't rest in between going to like Tartarus or the TV world or the palaces. You could overwork and then get sick, and then you wouldn't be able to do anything.
And there's certain deadlines you have to do something in.
Each game has a deadline. Like Tartarus, you had to like get to
a certain point before this date.
It was before the full moon, if I remember correctly.
Mm-hmm.
They did moon phases, and then, if I remember correctly, Persona 4 based it off the weather, and so you had
rainy days.
Like, it was rainy days, and then Persona 5 was repercussions of like negative things, like you were trying not to get in trouble, so you would like have to avoid getting in trouble by a certain day. You'd have to complete everything.
Gotcha.
And so, I mean, it's a whole mechanic. And I mean, I would say between the two of us, the gamer over here is probably better at it than me.
I mean, I just checked how many hours I put into Persona 5 Royal. I may or may not be 174 hours in like 3 playthroughs.
You know, you can probably look and see how many hours I have on mine. I'm almost like ashamed to know how many I have on mine.
Let's see.
And this is just one playthrough, mind you.
Yeah. Internet, it's kind of shoddy on my end.
Because I don't have my Switch near me.
At least 115 hours or more.
Yeah, I would say it's at least that much.
Good Lord.
And that's on one playthrough.
Mm-hmm.
Because I only have one playthrough on there. And then on my PlayStation 4, I have like 300 and something. It's how long it took me to finish it. I'm not like a savvy gamer like the lone gamer over there is. But he also has more time than I do, I think.
Yep.
So, I mean, we'll just go with that. It's okay. I may be older than him, but...
So, what's the next question on the docket, Woody?
I'm literally struggling here because I'm literally like, okay, so what are some of your favorite overall moments from the franchise? And I'm saying either for, their, story purposes, the atmosphere, the music.
Oh my God, and all of them is fantastic.
Yeah, but, what are some moments that really stand out for you for whatever reason?
mean, can we say that music is the most amazing soundtrack in every single game? Has like the best battle music that I've ever heard, and it literally has like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, and then the intro music when you start the game, like they all just have the most amazing intro music.
So yeah, gamer. We'll start with you this time. It's yeah. So what are some of your top Persona moments?
Oh, oh.
Making fun of me is one of them.
I'll have. I'm gonna have to think because I have to find the name of the one song that plays. So
Which
Mhm.
on which
Dreamer
game?
can answer this one for me. Answer this first.
Which game are you looking for the soundtrack, the song to? That's like really hard. I have to sit and think about that too, because I mean, mm,
Oh. Oh, probably my favorite song in Persona 5 when you first when your main character first transforms and you hear the song Willpower.
oh,
Okay, so that's one of Rob's, sorry, gamer's top moments.
Um
probably. What's another one, gamer? Do you have any other like?
um
Like I said, it could be anything. A moment with a piece of music, a moment where the atmosphere is just chef's kiss. The story beat is absolutely.
honestly, another favorite moment of mine is another moment from Persona 5, but it's how each character stands up for themselves and then obviously becomes able to fight with a persona. Each character has their own way.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
I'm trying to think. I would have to say, while he thinks of another one, I would say probably when the end, like I would say probably when you are like talking to all the main characters and you're doing the different social links and
getting
you
to
get,
know each character,
yes, and like each character has their own like
internal
backstory
backstory.
and the struggles, like I mean, they each just have their own, I don't want to say trauma because like that just sounds bad,
Like
but like they each just have their own like struggles.
internal dilemma.
Yeah, or like struggles. You could say struggles, and
Yeah,
how the teams, like each team, and from Persona 3, 4, and 5 Golden, or 5 Royal, they're all, even though Royal and Persona 5 are essentially the same game, just with like extra.
extra content.
I mean, it's still just like you're literally sitting there and you're watching this, and it's like when they bring in the new girl in Persona 5 Royal, and you'd seen her walking around in Persona 5, like very briefly, like so briefly. Like if you'd blinked, you missed her.
Mm-hmm.
And I hadn't even realized that until I was playing Royal, and I went, oh my gosh, like I completely missed her.
I do have to say another moment for mine, and
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna be choosing Persona 5 a lot because it's probably my favorite. All
Mm-hmm.
I have to do is do a certain pose, and Dreamer Girl will know exactly which character I'm talking about.
Let's see.
For those out there who are like me and have no idea, can someone explain the context of this?
There's a character in Persona 5 who joins in later in the game, like way later.
Mm-hmm.
She's the daughter of one of the guys you're going after.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And she doesn't necessarily join your team right away.
Oh yeah, and she had like
But
the worst name.
She calls herself Beauty Thief.
Oh my gosh,
That clothes.
that was her initial name. Because remember, it changes.
And then she becomes Noir.
Yes.
When
oh my gosh, I remember that, and I remember going, "What is she trying to dab?"
Even the team's reactions to that is like, "What the fuck?"
They're literally going because
What
remember,
is-
Morgana is with her, and Morgana is one of the like main like people. Well, is Morgana? We don't know if he's a person or well, we don't really know.
Morgana is the mascot character for 5.
Basically, yeah, because like the mascot character for 3 was, I would say, the dog.
The dog.
Yes, and then in 4 it was
Eddie.
Yeah, Teddy. Oh, and Teddy was creepy. Teddy still gives me nightmares, even even like decades later. I'm still like, oh, Teddy. I'd have to say one of my moments is from Persona 4, and it's when Teddy, goes from being the creepy teddy bear to like the human character. And here know if you're supposed to laugh awkwardly or if you're supposed to be creeped out.
Mm-hmm.
And then when you go back into the TV land and Teddy goes back to being creepy Teddy, I always thought Teddy looked kind of like a pedophile, but that's just my own thought. And then Persona 3, I would say I still to this day don't understand how the dog was able to have a persona.
2 of them.
Yes, like I still to this day don't know how that dog like emulated its personas because it couldn't shoot itself. And so you're just like, what are you doing?
You know what? To do the second Simpsons joke, a wizard did it.
Probably. But I just remember when I like get to that part of the game, I'm always like, how does this dog summon its persona?
And to be fair, knowing Persona, that's probably not far off the actual cat.
They're all on cannabis.
A wizard did it is probably not far from the official canon explanation.
No, I've decided with Persona that they're all high on cocaine.
They're on drugs.
Except for 4. They're on acid.
They had to be. They literally had to be because they stepped into a TV. How else can you?
What kind of Harry Potter nonsense is this?
It takes place.
They were too chill to be on acid. Lone Gamer. They had to be in number 4. They had to be on pot.
And it takes place in the dream realm, the same as A Nightmare on Elm Street. There you go.
I mean, I would say, Woody, you should definitely check them out. I mean, they're like the most iconic games of our time, and they literally, like, I played Persona 3 maybe like a year or 2 ago, and it's still like hit.
Yeah. I mean, it does.
Now, what drug would they have been on in 3, though? Lone Gamer. That's the question.
I don't think they were on drugs. I think they were just depressed.
Oh,
Their antidepressant ran out.
Yeah.
they're on Zoloft. There you go.
That hits too close to home.
Okay.
Oh,
Dreamer, I got a good question for you.
What?
Who would you say is probably the most badass character in the Persona franchise?
Oh my god, that's hard. That's
Well, the answer is always Walker, Texas Ranger, or Chuck Norris.
Could you imagine Chuck Norris seeing these children going through a TV and talking to a bear? Can you imagine? Oh my gosh, I'm trying to think who I'd have to pick like top 5, like honestly, or like top 3.
Yeah, let's go top 3 to make it easier.
So like if I had to pick a top 3, I would say for badass characters, I would say Mitsuru.
Mm-hmm.
I would say Chie.
Uh-huh.
And because I had to pick one from 5, and that's like really hard. I'm trying to think.
Honestly, I'm going to have to agree with you with your picks from the other games.
Mm-hmm.
My favorite badass character from 5, easily, Queen. Want to know why? Her persona's a freaking motorcycle.
You know, I was going to say it's a tie between Queen and Lady Anne. Or, you know, they called her
Panther.
Yeah, Panther. So for me, it's a tie between Queen and Panther. Like I cannot just pick one from 5.
I have no idea who any of these people are.
Go look it up. Do your research. You have time.
I'll do it later.
Yeah, while you're sitting on the John. Now, gamer. Here's the hard part.
Mm-hmm.
That just annoyed the ever-living mind out of you, and that you wish that they would like disappear and you never had to deal with them ever again. Because I know who I would pick.
Let's hear yours.
They're probably the same as yours.
Well, considering the fact you mentioned him earlier, I would have it.
Ryuji from 5 needs to literally just be like an emulator needs to be pointed at him from 3 and just like buy or shove him into a TV. And have him never come out again.
So if he goes through a TV, you stand behind it and you smash it so he can't come back.
Yeah.
All right. I don't know who's volunteering to do that one. And then I would say from 3, Junpei. Junpei annoyed me to no end with his whiny, like complaining. He reminds me of like lots of people from my life.
Well, and the fact he you know, you said his introduction is crashing into you. So
no, that's on Persona 4. And if I remember correctly, Junpei in Persona 3, I think, doesn't he just like walk next to you or something? Because they live in like the
basically.
same dorm.
Basically. He moves into the dorm later on, but he basically just comes out of nowhere.
Yeah, like he basically came out of nowhere. And like I could tell within the first 5 minutes, I kid you not, Lone Gamer, the first 5 minutes of dealing with Junpei, I realized he was the most annoying character of like the whole thing.
It only took you 5 minutes to realize I hate this guy.
Yes, basically, yes. And he was such an a-hole the whole game. He's literally this whiny little character. Like, if, like, and see, it had nothing to do with how long you spent time with him or anything. But he would literally whine and complain and just be like, woe is me. And I'd be sitting there going, shut up. Like, I'm not going to pick you. I don't like you. Unless I have to use you, I'm not going to. So, no.
You go sit on the bench. We'll call you if you need. Well, don't call us. We'll call you.
And then Persona 4, like, obviously it would be it would have been if
the guy you keep forgetting his name.
Because he's so annoying. He's literally just annoying. And I thought the same thing of him. I was just like, I don't like you. I literally just cannot stand you. And I'm just gonna never use you unless I have no choice. And that would have been
How long did it take you to realize he was the annoying character?
Less than 30 seconds of him showing up. It's that bad.
Yeah, when he runs into Chie and he literally just acts like it was her fault. And he was such a misogynistic peg. And I just be like, I really don't like you. Like, I have to use you until you get more than, 4 people?
Mm-hmm.
And then once you got the 5th person in your party, and you could pick. Then I was like, oh, bye, Yosuke, I don't like you. So, deuces.
I was like, oh, Yosuke, yeah, just go, like again, Yosuke, go sit on the bench over there with Junpei. Don't call us, we'll call you.
Like, tell me that those aren't the same people that I don't like that you didn't like.
Oh, yeah, right there, yeah.
Now, like, what were your thoughts on them? We know how much I hated them, so let's, here, bring it, Lone Gamer. Like, what were your thoughts?
Okay, basically, each character, even though they were royally annoying in their own way, they each got the same treatment in my head. If you don't shut the ever-living block up, I'm going to shove my foot so far up your hoo-ha that you're going to be tasting shoe leather.
To do the Evil Dead, I'm going to shove my foot so far up your butt, you'll need a shoehorn to swallow. So, gamer, dreamer, let me ask this question. How many mental accidents did these guys have, How many times a day were these guys accidentally, crossing the road and, getting hit by a truck or, falling over a vacuum cleaner cord that they didn't see or, falling down the...
No, I imagine...
I don't got all day.
No, I imagine throwing Junpei off a Tartarus.
So the answer is simply Yes.
No, like, tell me, Low Gamer, did you imagine chucking Junpei off the top of Tartarus and watching him fly?
That, but what I imagine the worst treatment in Persona 4, Yosuke, every time he wanted to use the best, like, no.
Oh, I hated it when he would like message you or call you and say, "Hey, let's go to TV Land." I'd be like sitting here like, I don't want to go with you.
Now that
Unless I can shove you in and never have you come out. Can I shove you to the like evil persona like boss and have it like eat you and I never have to see you again?
now that just reminds me of GTA 4 when you get all those phone calls and it's like, "Hey, Nico, it's your cousin Roman. Let's go bowling."
I wish it was like that.
Mm.
Because each character, like four, it was TV Land, and five, it was your palaces. They would have them like call you, or like they would meet up with you like at lunchtime at school, and they'd be like, "Hey, are we gonna go into insert location tonight?" Because it was always at night.
Mm-hmm.
Except for five. Five, it would be like at rando times during like the middle of the day. And I'd always be like, "So yeah, you don't look inconspicuous hanging out in the train station, like talking to a cat.
Now my
That
question.
doesn't look creepy at all."
Nope. Now here's a question for you. Since we mentioned earlier that the player characters, the protagonist you play as story plays a vital part to the overall plot line.
Mm-hmm.
Now, do all these other NPCs and party members, you say they have their own story. Now, does that play into the plot line as well, or is that?
Yes, it does.
To a degree, but not as impactful.
Like I would say in 3, it was the one who had like the choker. I forget her name off the top of my head, but like her story was like you literally intertwined with your main character.
Yeah.
If I remember
So,
correctly. And then
like
in 4, it was
because we mentioned him. I know you don't like him, but Junpei, he has a story. You talk to him. You find out his story. Is that part? His story. Part of the plot line.
it wasn't like an earth-shattering part.
No. I
But
think one character in 3 that had probably, or 2, that probably had the most impacting story besides the main character was probably Yukari and Mitsuru.
Yeah, they did. They were probably, and then Akihiko and the other guy that was in your party, like that was his friend. Like I would say, like their stories kind of intertwined with yours.
Mm-hmm.
And then after that, it was like Junpei's was there. It was almost like you knew what Junpei's backstory was, but it wasn't. It wasn't like earth shattering.
Yeah.
And it's like when I think about in 4, I'm trying to think whose was like important in 4 other than the main characters. Like I would say it was probably the little girl who always sang the Juness song. And then it was the one who owned the inn that you had to go in and save.
The hotel.
Yeah, the hotel. And like you had to save her, and that's like how she became part of your group. Like I think her story was like fairly like important.
Mm-hmm.
And then I can't remember. There's probably like one other person, but I can't remember. It's been so long since I played 4 that I mean. And then in 5, I would say it was, oh God,
Futaba.
Yeah, Futaba's was like super important, and so is Sojiro's. Like those two, along with your character's story, all kind of
Meshed together.
yes. And then the other ones, like their stories, kind of like ebbed and
They kind of
flowed.
flow through the story, but once you kind of deal with the trauma, it's like, okay.
And it's like they each had their own issues that they had to work through.
Overcome.
But I would honestly say that the ones that were the most important were Sojiro's and Futaba's that went along with yours. And I mean,
Okay.
Morgana's was fairly important.
True, yeah.
So I mean, it was like Morgana's was like important, but not as important as Futaba and Sojiro's.
Okay, and I think the final question, I think, before we wrap this up, is because the Persona franchise is so massive, in terms of 5 games plus a whole slew of spin-offs of spin-offs and side games. I mean, have you guys actually played any of the spin-off games or side games?
No.
I have.
Which one did you
Mhm.
play?
Probably the most recent one I played was Persona 5 Strikers,
I
which
watched.
basically acted as a legit sequel,
Mhm.
but it played like a Dynasty Warriors game.
Yeah, it had a very different. Like I watched it being played. I'm one of those people that like I watch walkthroughs of like it before I decide if it's gonna be my one video game of the year. Because I only get one video game a year. Because that's how
Yeah.
long it will take me to finish a game in a year. So I still
'Cause,
have time, Lone Gamer, to finish Persona 5 Royal. I still have time.
And even though there's a mobile game that nobody can really play at the moment except in Japan,
And
in Persona 5 Strikers, and Woody will appreciate this, they officially made a character, probably the oldest Persona user in the game, in the series.
I saw that.
was that a subtle jab at me there, gamer?
Oh, please, once I say you're going to come up with a short joke.
Yeah.
But I will say this. I watched Strikers being played, and then I like the more turn-based of, because Personas has the turn-based gameplay, and I like that because then I don't feel like if I take too long to make a decision that I die. Where if you have to button mash, then I'm like, bye-bye.
Because, I mean, if you think about it, with all these spin-offs, Atlas has sort of dipped Persona's toe into pretty much every other kind of game there is out there. I mean, the fact there's a Persona rhythm game out there.
Mm-hmm. Now, I have a question for Gamer.
Uh-huh.
So, if they in Persona 6, what would be your perfect game?
That's a very good question. The only thing I would want them to choose, because each of the Persona games had like a color to its theme, like 3 was blue, 4 was yellow, 5 was red. I want 6 to be green.
Mm-hmm.
That would be cool. Or what about they did it like purple?
Purple or green?
So since we mentioned the spin-offs, how would you guys feel sort of like a Persona Legends spin-off where it's its own story, but all the characters are sort of like in one massive crossover?
No.
Or do the varying themes just not work?
It wouldn't work because each game has its own like theme of the game. Like in Persona 3, you know, you're dealing with whatever they're dealing with. And then in Tartarus, Persona 4, they're dealing with TV Land. Persona 5, they're dealing with the palaces and all of what entails with that. There'd be no way that you could realistically link every single one of those games. The only way you could is the pop star character, because you know she would be famous amongst all the other people, but that'd be the only character that you could possibly link to all of them.
Because the way I'm sat here thinking is, you know, you think like you look at all these other, you know, RPGs out there like Dragon Quest, Monster Hunter, so you know, Final Fantasy, you know, they all have a game where, you know, legends of the past and the present, you know, have their own crossover storyline.
Yeah, unfortunately, Persona is that one series that just wouldn't work for.
Like I said, there's only one character that you could cross over, and that's the like pop star character. I think she was in 4.
So you know, whereas
you could possibly do On because she did modeling, but that would be like the only. I don't think that there was one in 3 that you could really.
So you know, putting character. So say for example, Gamer, you know, and Dreamer, you know, putting, you know, Cloud into Final Fantasy 15, it kind of works. You can, you know, you can finagle it enough so it seems plausible.
You can't like we've, you know, the only one I can think of is On from Persona 5 because she's a model. So she would appear in different like spreads that maybe they would see. And like her parents were like, I think they were what, filmmakers? Or they were like fashion designers. They did something within the
but putting, say, for example, Junpei from 4 into 6, it just couldn't work.
No.
Do it. Unless you reused a theme from 3, which they would never reuse a theme because they always do their own. And it's like with Yosuke, the only way you could reuse him is if you had Junes somehow mentioned, which they would never do because they never really mentioned.
They don't like reusing a whole lot of.
No, that's the thing I love about Atlas is that they make such great games and they take such great care when they create these games that they're literally completely unique to each and every storyline.
Which is quite interesting, you know, because if you know, once you factor in, you know, like all the other games in the Shin Megami Tensei franchises and sub-franchises, that they do, you know, crossover, reference each other. You know, the fact that the Jack Brothers often appear in many other Atlas games.
See, I would love if I could
as you know, as does the Prinny. You know, the Prinny does appear across multiple, you know, Shin Megami Tensei games, Digital Devil Saga. You know, even the fact that they had, you know, Dante from Devil May Cry in one of the games as well.
But I mean, I was just curious, what would you want? What would your perfect Persona 6 have?
Let's see. We've basically done like a high school setting in each of the games so far.
All of them.
I would want to see how they handle a college theme.
You know, I would too. Or like post-academic, or like instead of having it be academic, have it be they're trying to like navigate the working world with their personas and being out all night.
And I just remember this and bringing up Strikers. There's another character Woody would get a kick out of because the new character they introduced in the beginning of the game, she's basically an AI, basically story-driven character. You want to know what her weapons are, Woody?
Go on.
Freaking yo-yos.
That's rather unique.
Well, they each have their own unique weapons when they first start out. Like in 4, they had like golf clubs and like
Well, in general, each character had their own like unique weapon.
And they each start off like in the beginning, they all start off with like the most ridiculous looking weapons, like literally, like it could be something
in 4.
And see, in 3, they had like pretend swords and stuff. And I mean, obviously, when they went to Tartarus, they were real, but they were like the most ridiculous looking thing ever. And then in 5, they were ridiculous too.
So would now you're telling me that in the Persona franchise, your character starts out with a wiffle ball bat and starts bonking enemies with a wiffle ball bat.
Yes.
Yeah, and in Persona 5, each character has their own unique melee weapon and their own unique gun.
Oh, I know. That was entertaining.
So now I'm picturing in Persona 5 somebody coming out with a goddamn Nerf gun and a golf club.
Well, you're not far off from that because Ryuji's weapon style is like a club or a mallet.
Mm-hmm.
I think one of his weapons is legit pipe.
It did look like a pipe, if I remember correctly.
So he's got a lead pipe and a Nerf gun. Well, okay.
I think his gun was like a shotgun.
I think it was, if I remember correctly. It's been a while since I played it, but like and see, when you went from the real world to your palace, the
guns were model guns.
The guns were model guns, but when they went into the palace, they were real.
And they varied from handgun, submachine guns,
shotgun, semi-automatic,
revolvers, grenade launchers.
So now just picture somebody taking a big ass over the top Nerf gun or Super Soaker into this, palace. You'd be unstoppable.
Would it be a flamethrower?
Just take just go back to the 90s, raid some of those really big, outrageous Super Soakers that can shoot like 120 feet.
And in palace or whatever, you'd be like,
honestly, it would be like my like thing I would love to see in 6. Like obviously I would love to be able, because there are girls who play Persona. Atlas, if you are hearing this, there are girls who play Persona.
Well,
so
yeah.
We would love to be able to pick a female character to play, because that would be super cool. So again, Atlas, if you're listening for Persona 6, please, for the love of God, give us like the ability to pick a female character. I would be so happy. Thank you. And I think it'd be hilarious if you could still do something similar to having the guns, but one of them be a flamethrower. Like that would just be hilarious. And then it's like a female character with the flamethrower literally burning whatever it is to the ground.
Yeah, well, we don't need to give you napalm, Dreamer. No. We're not going to put you...
funny.
And what would make this even funnier, the douchebag character of the game, which we all know it will have, he'll say something on the lines like, she's probably dealing with her time in a month.
And then that's when I would love to be able to set him on fire.
See, this is the exact reason why you cannot target your own teammates. This is exact.
Yes, you can. In Persona 6, I would love to be able for one time. Just one. And you have to time it at the right time. And it's the one who pisses you off so much. And I would love to be able to set them on fire with some napalm.
Oh.
Just one time. I just once. I swear. I only want to do it once. Or
I-
like
I-
shove them out a window and see if they'll fly.
So basically, what you want is to be able to, in Persona 6, to be able to abuse your the NPCs.
Yes, the one that annoys you.
Oh, I don't
Yes.
think they'd. I don't think they'd allow this. I think Atlas don't want you going around punching people.
Or gift slapping them. That'd be
I,
hilarious.
I mean, Dreamer, let's be real. And Gamer, you won't understand this. They already allowed you to do this. We all remember playing Mortal Kombat Deception's Conquest mode, running around all these places as Shujinko punching people in the face. Yeah, see, Gamer's nodding. He knows. He knows exactly what I'm talking about. Because I played Mortal Kombat Deception. I played the Conquest mode. And I spent an awful large amount of time in the Earthrealm village just running around punching people.
But imagine if you could, the one character that pissed you off in Persona 6, that like you could literally just go and say, "Shut up," punch him in the face. That'd just be entertaining. Can you imagine like how often Rob and I would count how many times we punched the butthead in the face? We could make a game out of it. It would be amazing. Along with like obviously it has to have the like most perfection of a soundtrack. Like literally, like we know that Atlas knows exactly what they're doing when they make
Yeah.
that soundtrack. That soundtrack will make you cry just from how magical it is.
Ooh, I have two requests for Persona 6.
Yes.
One, they need to keep up with the killer soundtracks.
Yes.
And two,
Yeah.
the mascot character and Atlas, please listen. Make it a fluffing squirrel. That would be hilarious.
Possum.
Well, I'm gonna say, Gamer, there. You know, given how popular Squirrel Girl's been thanks to Marvel Rivals, you never know.
Or no. Hamtaro. Make the mascot a hamster that talks. That'd be hilarious. I think I broke the lone game.
Gamer, you all right up there? You good? You good?
I can't feel my coat.
Congratulations, you broke him.
Yay! What's my prize?
Okay, Gamer, breathe. Deep breaths. Regain your composure. And breathe.
But I would say I would love to see, like, honestly, like, I mean, jokes aside, I would honestly just love to see the same fantastic character development from start to finish with whatever story that they're going to come up with. And I would love to see the ability to choose the gender of your character and possibly set it in either like a college or like a post-college like setting and have like some super unexpected person is your mascot. Like have it not be something that we expect, like a dog, a cat, a
bird or what?
Creepy teddy bear. Like we don't need another creepy teddy bear. We had Teddy. Like again, Atlas, if you're listening, we don't want another Teddy because that was disturbing and the thing of nightmares. Like we don't want that.
Just for you, Dreamer, they're now going to make Teddy 2.0, where he's just
See,
extra.
that's the good thing about Atlas. They actually won't do that because they don't ever reuse characters.
No, they know what they're gonna do. I think Atlas, they're good at listening to player feedback. That they know what they're gonna be doing. I think they're planning.
I think I have a feeling I know what they would do, Rob.
To be fair, I also think Atlas are aware of the extremely high standards that are
I mean, gamer.
put.
So I think I know what creepy thing they'd make a mascot. They'd give it a rubber ducky.
What are they gonna do? What are they gonna do? Have Ernie singing "Rubber Ducky, You're the One"?
Yes, that makes bath time so fun. Speaking of that, your nephew, Little Dreamer, was singing that in the car the other day. He saw this like car wash and it had like a rubber ducky out front, and then he started singing "Rubber Ducky, you're the one that makes bath time so fun," and I was like, "That's hilariously cute."
You know what that means, Dreamer? We've taught him well.
Well, he likes Transformers, like his uncles. I mean,
We've given him the best education that a bunch of geeks could give him.
but yeah, no, he will not see Persona ever. Ever. The game is so inappropriate for a child. Like even when he was a baby, like a literal baby, I still wouldn't play it because I was like, I don't want to like tarnish and destroy his innocent brain.
I mean, let me say this, Dreamer. Some uncles may teach ABCs and numbers. They may, teach the young and how to shave. No, we're just going to teach him 80s cartoons.
I mean, there are worse things y'all could teach him. But I guess I would love to see just like an overall, like really good game, like the other three.
Trust me, Atlas. They always strive for a high standard of games, because let's be real, us gamers do expect a high standard from an Atlas game.
And see, like, that's the thing I miss. And this is going to sound purist, and I don't mean it to, but I miss Atlas only specifically being for the PlayStation. But I also, it's weird. I do like being able to play it on my Switch laying in bed.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, it's weird.
Oh, and Dreamer, tell them who has given you Persona games lately.
Oh, well, so the Lone Gamer, he messaged me today because, Mother's Day is a week from, was it Sunday?
Mm-hmm. A week from Sunday.
Wow. So he was like, I got you Persona 3 Reload and for your PlayStation 4, because yes, people, I have not upgraded to a 5. I PO. So if you want me to have a 5, then go buy it for me. Because I PO. And also, I am of the opinion of as long as my PlayStation 4 continues to run.
If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
And mine and these two boys have like OG, like it's literally the old one.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's my Mother's Day gift because he literally said that's my Mother's Day gift.
Well, thank you, Gamer, for buying, Dreamer that wonderful gift.
Where's mine, Woody?
It's in the mail.
Oh, that's a bunch of crock, and you know it.
Hey, it's got all your gifts have to come from the UK to the US. I hope I don't have to pay any tariffs on it. Oh well.
Well, I guess we'll find out.
We'll find out when I get the bill.
Have fun with that.
Yes, we'll see how much it costs me to send you this stuff for you and Little Dreamer.
So overall, though, would you say that you love the Persona games, the Lone Gamer, or would you want to see something change in them?
Oh, I don't change a damn thing.
I would say the same thing, other than I would love just to have the ability to choose the gender of my character.
Mm-hmm.
That'd be the only like slight tweak I'd make.
So yeah, there we have it. I hope you've enjoyed our discussion. I think it's safe to say that Persona has cemented itself as the sort of antithesis to JRP, the traditional JRPG. It's forged its own identity, and it's, arguably one of the most popular RPG franchises of all time.
I would agree with that. It's up there.
Yeah, will it one day, be able to challenge the mighty Final Fantasy? Will it one day, dethrone Dragon Quest? Only time will tell.
Mm-hmm.
It might.
The reason why I say Dragon Quest, dethroning Dragon Quest is because Dragon Quest games are that big of a deal in Japan that people literally take the day off work and school to go buy and play them. In fact, it was the fact that they stopped releasing Dragon Quest games in the week simply down to the fact that they knew productivity would tank that day. But yeah, that's it. And yeah. Well, hopefully you'll join us next time as we on the bookshelves. We hope you've enjoyed this, this little ramble of two experts and an idiot, try and fumble their way through Persona.
I don't think I'm an expert, but okay, thank you.
Well, compared to me, you two are the experts.
But you have your toilet games.
Yes, yeah, there is that. Yes. So until the day Atlas make a Persona toilet game,
You hear that, Atlas? Go! There's a want for it. Go make it.
Yeah, a game I can play. In the break room at work.
Is that what you're calling the bathroom?
Hey, break room, toilet, whatever. I play it in downtime. But yeah. Maybe given the fact that cell phones and tablets are now becoming as powerful, if not better than games consoles and handhelds these days, it's only a matter of time anyway before, there is a Persona 7 mobile edition.
Don't give them any ideas.
You know what I mean? Given Atlas and how they like to be ahead of somewhat ahead of the curve in regards to releases and how they want to release it. The fact that they put the Persona games on the PSP, PS Vita, and even on the PlayStation Classic, so people could play them. People who'd never played them back in the day could, either play it for the first time, or those that did play Persona and Persona 2 on PlayStation in 1999 could relive them on the PSP.
Any final thoughts?
Yeah, I just, I may not be a fan of Persona. I may not have played it, but I respect, what it's done for, the RPG world, what it's done for gaming. I respect its place. And I just hope the franchise continues, and you get stronger with each incarnation. Really.
Mm-hmm.
Any final
Yeah.
words from me? Yeah. Don't make us go after a MILF like in Persona 5.
I have questions, but I'll save them for later. I mean that mix of, do I really want to know?
I'm just going to say this. One of the romantic interests in the game is your teacher.
So is this the point where Van Halen's hot for teacher intensifies?
Especially when her side gig to make extra money is being a maid.
And she wears the actual maid costume.
Oh my god, she wears a full French maid attire, does
Yes.
she?
And the name she goes by? And Woody, you'll get a kick out of this? Becky.
Yeah, I'll make a note of that one for later.
Yeah, I'm done.
I don't have any other thoughts either, other than I hope that you keep making Persona games that you can have inside jokes with your friends with, that like other people have no clue what you're talking about, but you're sitting there laughing like an idiot. Becky.
I got no more jokes. I'm done.
But this has been fun. It's been fun chatting this with you, Lone Gamer. We should do this again sometime.
Mm-hmm.
And
like, if they make a 6, we need to like review it extensively.
And this is an outside thought. This is what I wanted for for the bookshelf, along with Dreamer. Where where not one person was in control of a conversation. The fact that we all have our own interests and we can all direct and steer a conversation or discussion topic. So I want to give a big thanks to Dreamer and Gamer there for sitting in the driver's seat, steering this discussion on Persona along while I'm just sat in the back
enjoying the ride.
Eating the snacks and enjoying the ride. So, big thank you. Yeah.
No problem.
Give yourselves a pat on the back from me. You get a pat on the back from me. Well done. Thank you. But on that note, hope you join us next time. And I've been Woody.
Lone Gamer.
And DreamerGirl.
Thank you very much for joining us, and good night.